Thank you very much for your attendance to the first tourism data space series of this year, followed by the health and mobility events that happened earlier this year. We're moving right now to the panel discussions of the day. Our first panel discussion will concentrate on smart destinations. Our panelists are Giovanna Galasso, Carlos Romero, Stephen Valke, Pedro Mar, Olivier Dion. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Vasilia. So I'm very happy to introduce you to the Smart Destinations breakout session today. So this will be a first breakout session dedicated to smart destinations. And after you will have two other breakout sessions, one about tourism value chains with Alessio and one about technological enablers with Sylvia. But here we will focus on the initiatives, and we've got the chance with our panel today to have to present you 4 different initiatives at 4 different levels, at the EU level, at the national level, at the regional level, and at the very local level. So you will meet all our panelists. They will introduce each of their initiatives. I will ask them individually a few questions, and on the second part of the breakout session, it will be a more open discussion where I will ask a few open questions, and I will invite the audience to ask questions directly in the chat, or even if you raise your hand to take the floor to ask your questions to our panel. So first, a small introduction about me. My name is Olivier Dion. I'm the initiator of the project called Gaia-X, which is a data space in France, gathering 60 key tourism players, and where we focus on personal data sharing and on topics like sustainability and inclusivity for disabled people. What we do in France, it's just one specific initiative, but of course we are here to hear about each other, hear about other projects, and connect to those other projects and form the governance of the data spaces, the tourism data spaces at the EU level. And so, as I told you, we got different levels of initiatives today, and I would first start by giving the floor to Giovanna for the EU level. Giovanna.
Thanks a lot, Olivier. I will speak about the Smart Tourism Destination project, which was anticipated this morning by Ms. Alabarile, because this is a new founded project by DG Grow, the Tourism and Textile Unit, and it brings together 48 tourism destinations from 21 countries across Europe, with the aim of offering and of disseminating the relevance of data management and data sharing in the tourism sector to increase the destination capability in use of ICT solutions to develop more sustainable advanced tourism products and services. The project started in March 2021, so 1 year ago, more or less. It involved the preparation of a study that aims to analyze the state-of-the-art future development and challenges related to intelligent data management collected from tourism destinations. So we have carried out over the past year an extensive mapping of data typology collected by the destination, and now the latter use them to optimize their offer, identifying good practices and several examples of data sharing, but also of cooperation among destinations. The study has been just approved by the Commission and will be published soon, and it will be shared with everyone. Don't expect an academic study, but it's interesting for the community, really a practical tool for the community. This first phase also involved this launch of 2 open calls. So we also recruited experts, tourism experts that will support us in the project. And also we launched this call to select 50 European cities in the project activities. Now we have 48. If there are other couple of cities, we can accommodate them. Why? Because in the second phase of the project, we have developed a concise guide for tourism destination to understand the basic of data management for smart tourism, but also together with the expert, we will develop a toolkit, a blueprint document suggesting concrete steps for destination to become or improve as a start tourism destination, and also promote collaborative practice. In this second phase, the expert and the destination managers will become an active part in the project, because we will be organizing, starting from September and during next year, a capacity building, a coaching and capacity building activities for all these 48 destinations. In addition, we will also set up a community which will be focused on data management and data sharing. It's really an awareness raising project. Of course, the third phase of the project will be also to collect all the information, lessons learned, challenges faced, input necessary for the formulation of a set of policy recommendation, because this is a pilot project, and it's the final input will be to the Commission for the next step.
Thanks a lot, Giovanna. Just a few questions. What are the types of destinations you target in the study? Big, small, urban, rural? What kind?
In the project, probably it's also important to understand what we mean for destination, because we consider a smart tourism destination the ones that facilitate access to tourism and hospitality products, services, spaces, and experience through ICT-based innovative solutions, making tourism sustainable and accessible and fully leveraging their cultural heritage and creativity. So this is what could be a smart tourism destination. Obviously, we have the destination that we have selected vary considerably in terms of the number of inhabitants, average tourists per year. So this variety is the real value of the project. We have smart cities like in this cohort, like Dublin, Gothenburg. We listened about Gothenburg, Helsinki, Barcelona. So very advanced cities, but the others have not yet begun their transformation process and are really small. For example, Snina in Slovakia, Sierra de Gazorla in Spain, Carbonia in Sardinia, Postojna from Slovenia. This is I would say the real value of our project, because as Misa said this morning, we have been working with them and supporting the Commission in the implementation. It means that these small cities, small destination, I'm not only cities, these small destinations that actually do not really have the opportunity also to speak, to provide input to the Commission for their policy, are in the right place. And these are, and they will learn also from the ones that are more advanced about data management. So it's this I would say that this difference really make this difference really make the value. Some are rural, as you asked, some are coastal destination or maritime, and some are mountains, more mountains destinations or inner areas, but also the very sometimes also the interesting thing of this project that we have also some really strong destination. I don't know, Capri, but that really they have not started working on the data sharing and data management.
And I know there is still a long way for the study, but what are your first hints? Maybe some difficulties you've seen for certain kinds of destinations?
Well, of course, if you, we will share really very soon about this guide, which is really a tool with the main finding of the project and report. We will not really expect the wait for the official publication. What we have. There are numerous good practices. I would say not easy to find, the ones that really are focused on data management and data sharing, and also example, I would say, of cooperation among destinations outside the usual European projects. But from the good practices really can help us understand what destination needs to be successful in this field. The key dimension of actions, I would say, is defining a clear strategy, ensuring proper governance with a dedicated team, the sourcing the right mix of skills. This is fundamental also for the smaller destinations. Encourage the digital transition of tourism business at the destination level, and invest in infrastructure and technologies, as well as in data collection and management. These are the main relevant aspects that we also find in our cases. And we will develop this toolkit I was mentioning based on this, I would say, chapter, and will not solve the issue, but at least the project aims to be a kind of starting point in terms of awareness raising.
Okay. Okay, thanks. We will ask a few more questions in the open part of the breakout session. Thanks a lot, Giovanna. So we keep going on the top-down approach of this session. So from EU level now to national level with Carlos. Carlos, about Spain, the floor is yours, if you hear me. We cannot hear you.
If you can unmute and open your camera, please.
Thank you.
We cannot hear you very well.
Yes,
if you can.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being with all of you here today. To tell you about what we're doing in Spain in relation with our Smart Destination Initiative.
Yes, excuse me.
I'm the Innovation Director of Segitours. Segitour is a public company. We are part of the Ministry of
Okay, so this is like an issue with a Wi-Fi connection. Olivier, maybe we can move.
Yes, maybe we will move
to the next speaker.
Yes, to the next speaker, and we will go back to Carlos.
To Carlos.
Okay. So let's go. So let's go directly at the regional level, and with Steven for Flanders. Steven,
do you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, my connection is better. But okay. I'm closer to Brussels than Carlos is, I suppose. Okay, I'm from Visit Flanders, so we are responsible for tourism and tourism promotion of the region of Flanders in Brussels. And I'm from the research team, and within the team we have been using quite a lot of data the last few years. There are two types of data that we are using. One is more on policy-based, economic relevance, impact of tourism on the environment, local communities, and so on. And the other type of data are more marketing data on the visitor journey cycle and on the decision process. Actually, we want to get a view from reputation to experience and everything in between. So how people book and so on, to get a full view on the whole process of visiting the destination. And that's as well for the potential as well as for the actual visitor within Flanders. And as Visit Flanders, we are regional, but we also act as a national entity, because in Belgium we're a bit a strange country, as you might know, and there is no national tourism authority. So Visit Flanders can act as a national authority in tourism in tourism matters. So as that being said, as Visit Flanders, we own also some types of data. So we have, for example, a system in which we collect data on attraction visitation. We're also responsible, we also have the raw data on overnights and arrivals and so on. But besides that, those are a bit our own data. There are also some other ones. We also collect data through third parties being bought, like accommodation booking data coming from a local provider, web listening. It's semantic data. It's something we need. What do people say about our teams in Flanders? Whether because of marketing issues that can be interesting, what are people saying about our painters, for example? Also Google search we are using and so on. Review analysis, of course, of accommodations and attractions. We analyze them, what is going well, what is going less. And then something we need to get more and more into are the niche. And that's a bit something that's not easy, finding data on really niche visitors. So we have been using some ad hoc. We did some ad hoc researches with data, like for example, and now I give a name, Strava for cycling, or Untapped for people interested in beer. So you see there's a whole range from the wide audience up to really tapping into that niche audience. Maybe something more, it's not always easy using those data. So there are some types of data that we stopped a bit using so far. An example is, for example, we have credit card data, but at the moment we don't use them because of the location of Flanders. It's very hard to pull out tourism. You know, Flanders is within a very densely populated area of Europe, and there's a lot of cross-border shopping, and it's very difficult to pull out tourism. Also with mobile data, telecom data, we suffered a bit to pull out good conclusions. So, but we're always experimenting with all types of data. And then when it comes to dissemination, we have dashboards, reports, ad hoc presentations, but we lack a bit a structural way of working with data. There's a lot of experiments, all very interesting, but turning them into structural work is quite hard. That's a bit my story, Olivier.
Okay, thanks a lot, Steven. Just a few questions about how do you currently access all those data from all those applications? What are the methods?
Yeah, that was one of my points I see here. It's quite fragmented, and that's something that we are struggling with. They're all coming in through end solutions, through dashboards. So except of the data we own, we can disseminate them through our own dashboards, but the other one through third parties, they are all coming in through dashboards, and that's quite hard because those are end products, and when you start working with them, it's not easy. We need rather raw data to really work with them. But we are working on a project to rationalize our sources and structure them better. It's something we need to do.
Do you sometimes scrap data from website or pay for data access, things like this?
No. Scraping, we are using a third-party tool to get those semantic data from the web, but we don't scrape.
Okay.
No. The same for review data. We don't scrape them. We are using a third-party solution.
Okay. And do you? I imagine that you struggle sometimes for harmonizing data models from all those different sources.
Well, that's one of the struggles we have. Indeed, they are all coming. Those are end products, not harmonized, so it's not easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And about the so you talked about dashboards. Do you use third-party solutions, or do you build your own dashboards? And how do you exploit those data?
We pull them into Power BI dashboard.
Okay.
And those are our own data that we are owner of. We pull them in and share the data with our partners using that way. Maybe interesting to know as well with the, for example, attractions barometer. It's something that we do. It's a collaboration with our provincial partners. Okay, they are going to the attractions and convince them to give the data to the system.
Okay, and my last question to you is about about cooperation at a regional level. So how does it work? You connect different initiatives and connect to the regional level, the Flanders level. How does it work?
Well, we are part of the government, so we are the connection, in fact. So yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Maybe one last thing, something that we're suffering about is data on sustainability. It's not easy, certainly when it comes to the environment. I will ask this. We'll keep this sustainability for the second part of the session. I will ask a few questions about sustainability to all of you, because I suppose this is a very key dimension of all of your projects. Next we move to the local level with Pedro. Pedro, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Olivier. You hear me correctly? Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Terrific. Okay. Thank you for inviting us. Obviously, I'm going to talk just specifically to one project that we have here in Palma. Actually, we have 12 projects associated to smart destinations, but today I will only talk about one. In the second part of on the panel, we can talk about some other projects, okay? One of the main challenges that we have in the destination, just for you to have an idea for the audience, Palma receives annually between the tourists that sleep at least one night in the destination plus the day visitors, close to 6 million tourists, okay? Out of these 6 million tourists, 2 million arrive to Palma on a cruise, okay? So at certain parts of the day and at certain parts of the year, we have a problem on how do we manage the flow of tourists and how do we manage the flow of people in the streets. Just for you to have an idea, Palma has a population of 450,000 inhabitants, okay? Obviously, there are some laws that we have passed as a way to manage the growth of the destination and to manage the growth of the beds. But basically, technology, it's an ally to us in order for us to manage and to maintain that high index of satisfaction, okay? So the project I want to talk to you briefly, it's a project on how do we manage the disembarkment of the passengers that arrive on a cruise and how technology is applied to that in order for them to move them around the destination, okay? So thanks to all the Wi-Fi antennas and the Wi-Fi networks that we have displayed all over the destination, including the harbor, okay, we're able to track down all those passengers that arrive on a cruise. and via artificial intelligence and via a heat map in real time, okay, we are able of recommending them alternative itineraries to visit the city, okay, via the data and via the algorithms that we have associated to this solution. We recommend them. Obviously, everybody wants to go to the cathedral. That's a must, but we recommend them to arrive to the cathedral in different waves. Okay, prior to arriving to the cathedral, we recommend them to visit other parts of the city. That way, we slow down the traffic of all the different visitors that want to go to that neurological part of the city, which is the cathedral, and we recommend them alternative itineraries. So the visitors to the cathedral and the old part of the town, it's made by phases. Okay. With this technology and with this application, we've been able to reduce by 11% the sense of crowdiness in the old part of the city, just for the visitors and the passengers that arrive on a cruise. Okay, for next year, we are deploying this solution for any tourist that will be arriving to the destination, regardless if they arrive on a cruise or if they arrive by car or if they are staying in the city. And that way, we will be able to reduce by 45% the affluence to top areas of the city that are really condensed. And that way, we basically increment and increase the experience of the destination and the satisfaction. Okay, so I can explain later on to any question and answer any questions. Okay, so thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Pedro. So maybe a few specific questions to you. I think it is better if I address it to you directly about AI. You raised a very important topic here, because all the data spaces we will build will probably be highly related to AI. Is it real time? Is it, do you build in trustworthy AI measures, or how do you connect AI to data?
Okay, it's basically it's in real time. Okay, our AI, it's called Sebastian. Okay, Sebastian is the patron of the city of Palma. Okay, and obviously it has a programming behind that, and that the way the AI works is it looks at what's going on the destination in real time and where all the different tourists are located. Okay, and based on the patterns of behavior, it recommends those tourists that interact with the AI different alternatives and different routes for them to discover other parts of the city that previously they were not thinking of visiting. Okay, and it also, if it gives them permission to interact with them, it advises them when they can visit the cathedral, because it detects that there is less people in the area of the cathedral.
Okay, okay, very, very interesting, very powerful. Vasilia?
Sorry about this. We have a question. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
So we have a question to Pedro. Are you using mobility applications leveraging GPS Galileo within your AI solution?
Right now, no. Okay, on phase 1, which is what we have right now, it is just exclusively using the Wi-Fi network that we have. We have 97 Wi-Fi points in the destination, okay, that tracks that tourist that and that leaves the boat. In phase 2, we want to connect this Wi-Fi network with either Movistar, Orange, or Vodafone, depending on the commercial agreements that we arrive with the top telco companies in Spain.
Okay. Vasilia, is there another question?
There is no other question.
Okay.
As we move along, if there are any further questions, I will just raise my hand.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot. And last question, Pedro. Is there already a connection between your initiative at the local level and the national level, and the fact that this is major topic for Spain at the moment? Is there already a connection to make, for instance, your project a lighthouse project?
Right now, with this project in concrete, no. Okay, there is other projects that obviously I didn't talk about that on crowd management on the beaches, okay, that it was developed at the local level by us, and this has been scaled up to the regional level, to the entire island of Mallorca, okay, and we want to present this project to Segitur, okay, which is the national body, as a way to manage crowds in the beaches in real time, 24/7.
Okay, thanks a lot. And that should make the connection if we've got Carlos back. Carlos,
yes, Olivier,
yes.
do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Carlos.
So, okay, very quickly. Sorry for those connectivity problems. I'm not at my office right now, and it is been complicated to participate in the event. But very quickly, we are Segitur, the national agency for promoting innovation and digitalization in the tourism sector in Spain. We are part of the Ministry of Tourism, and since 6-7 years ago, we have been promoting a specific program on smart destinations all over Spain. Our approach to the smart destination concept is through a methodology that we have elaborated to start by doing a diagnosis of our destinations to understand what their problems are in relation with 5 major areas of analysis. When we arrive to a Spanish destination, willing to be part of our smart destination initiative, we start by analyzing how they are doing in the areas of governance, good governance, in the areas of sustainability, innovation, digitalization, and accessibility and inclusion. So we have all those 5 big major areas of action that we analyze through this methodology based on a certain number of indicators that through which we try to measure how good they are doing in each one of those 5 major areas of action. Somehow we understand that a smart destination should start their work by identifying their gaps and their needs, and from there we propose them a kind of recommendation system to evolve from their initial situation to a more elaborated and sophisticated destination. Of course, that we used a lot of data in this kind of diagnosis analysis of the situation of the destination since 2010, 2009 that we started this program. We have passed through this kind of diagnosis methodology around 90 destinations from all over Spain, from all very different typologies of destinations. So from Marbella or Palma de Mallorca or Madrid or Valencia to very small, tiny destinations in the interior and rural areas of Spain. And we try to compare different situations and to learn in the process. No? We at the same time are developing in Spain a kind of national repository of tourism data from different sources of information to help it in this kind of improvement process in which they are involved, using different sources of traditionally the official source of information from our National Statistical Office, but also combining this traditional source of information with information provided by telecom operators. You mentioned also financial institutions and information provided by credit card companies. Also information provided through the scrapping that we do. You mentioned it before, Olivier, in websites to understand the news, in social networks, also to follow up the evolution of hotel prices and tourism apartment pricing evolution and so on. No?
But so
yeah, Olivier?
Were you aware of Pedro's project in Palma, for instance?
Yeah. We have around all over Spain different initiatives similar to what they are doing in Palma, working with Wi-Fi systems, working with sensors to collect different kinds of information of different nature. Right now, we are in the process in which we are investing a lot in different destinations in Spain in infrastructure, basic infrastructure, connectivity infrastructure, sensoric, and so on. But now we do have the challenge to activate this information. So one thing is to collect it, and another thing is to be able to start taking decisions on the basis of this information.
Concerning the governance, how do you see it? So you connect with the local level, and you also make the link with the EU level. Is it?
No, we are still having a lot of difficulties to connect with the local level.
Yeah.
To build up this kind of bridge between the national and local level to start thinking and connecting ourselves with the European level. First of all, let's see if we are able to organize our own house, no? What we have in Spain, and the challenge is huge because most of those infrastructures have been developed independently, managed by the local authorities. So this interaction between the national and local level has not been solved yet. Not only the local level, but the regional level. No? Pedro was mentioning also the
also the regional level.
The local level and the regional level. So in Spain, we have those three levels that we still don't know how to properly interlink them. No?
Yes, and so you still find it difficult. This, which leads we are running out of time here, but which leads me to an open question to all of you about how you see the Gaia initiative and how it can help all of your projects, and did you integrate it into your plan or not? Who wants to go first? Maybe Pedro?
Perfect. Very quickly. For us, the Gaia initiative is key. Okay. Obviously, we represent the local level, but at the end, tourists, they really don't care if they're the local, regional, national, or European level. They just want to go on a vacation. Okay. So we need to work data that is able to move around all the different places that tourist moves around. Okay. So any area or any forum that will help us out work on regional, local, and national and European initiatives, we will be there and we want to be part of this. Okay, so for us, it's key to be part of this Gaia project. Terrific.
Okay, thanks a lot. The EU level, Giovanna?
Well, of course, fundamental. I think what is important, our project also, the project, the Smart Tourism Destination project can also give some input because, for example, as I said, in our study, we have also mapped types of data collected. We have worked on a data typology, collect good practices, and this can be shared as an input for the work that will be done on the data space for tourism. The good practices are, kind of use cases, or input could be for the use cases, but also most of all, what I think that is important in the data space is that the decentralized setting of data spaces has the benefit of mutualizing the computing capabilities and reducing technological burdens on individual participants, allowing actors of any size to join as far as they share data according to the agreed standard and format. Of course, the individual, the actors also smaller sites needs to be aware of these opportunities. So the project, this type of project for us is an awareness raising a project towards big destination, small destinations. At beginning, we will make only awareness. In the future, I hope that also these smaller destination could join this moment.
Okay, thanks a lot, Giovanna. Maybe Stephen, at the regional level, how do you envision Gaia as a part of your project?
For us, it's a very interesting initiative because it can give us clarity in that tourism data jungle. It's not always easy to find all the data, so it might help us. That's one thing, and the other thing is it might help us also in managing the data, I guess, because that's something that we are suffering with.
Thanks a lot, Steven. And finally, Carlos, how do you see Gaia for you?
Yes,
Carlos,
well, I think it's a great. I think yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, and we should support the Gaia initiative. I think it is one of the big challenges we have. It is to convince the private sector to be involved in the project, to share their data, to show them that it is a confident space in which they could share those data, and also to provide them with certain capacities that maybe they don't have, just by themselves. So this opportunity to interact with public and private data within a unique space is something unique, and we had to go for it. We fully support the initiative. I think it is a great initiative.
Thanks a lot to all of you. So we are about to close the session, and we've seen a great panel. Thanks a lot to all of you. Great panel with 4 different levels: EU level, national level, regional level, and local level. And we see that there are still some strugglings of awareness of practical data access, data models, issues, and so on. But we see that Gaia is a way here to integrate all those different levels and to spread the word and spread the technological means for all of the different levels. As you said, Pedro, tourists do not care whether it's local, regional, or national. So we've got maybe to think about user centricity, what they care about, what they really care about, and it's not our organizational structure. And that's what we can do together with Gaia. And we see, talking together, that it will be a technological issue, but it will be also a lot about governance, about all of these different levels, these different layers. So thanks a lot. We close the session here. I will give the floor for the second breakout session to Alessio about tourism data value chains. and then to Sylvia on the technical aspects and technical enablers. Thanks a lot to all of you.
Thanks,
Thank
Olivier.
you.
Good afternoon.
Olivier, thank you very much, Olivier, for coordinating this. We can now move to our next breakout session on smart destinations, on actually tourism value chain, sorry, with panelists being Research Hanko, Martin Sutztek, moderator Alessio Sidoti. My God, your names I cannot even pronounce, so apologies for that. Go ahead.
Sorry, Vassilia. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the session Tourism Value Chain. My name is Alessio Sidoti, and I will be your moderator today. I work at the Intellera consulting firm, where I'm mainly involved in several tourist projects at the Italian and European levels. As you will see from the screen, we will have today with us Martin Sutztek, Director Research and Development from Outdoor Active. We have Richard Hankel, Head of Open Data and Digital Projects from GNTB, Deutsche Zentrale für Tourismus. And not sure if we will have also Dolores Ordóñez in this panel. However, it is a very interesting panel because we have people from a variety of background and segments. So it is not just to talk about what is happening in the sector, but to provide hands-on experience from people working in the framework of the tourism data space. Before we start, I'll give you a very quick outline of the topics we will address in this session. The impact of the pandemic on the sector, as we all know, has been rather heavy. But according to latest data, tourism is strongly recovering. So not out of blind optimism, but we should admit that in this catastrophe, there were also opportunities related mainly to the acceleration of the green, digital, and also resilient transition of the tourism sector. So these will clearly emerge from the experience we will present during this session. We will go also through the main challenges encountered from the data and data spaces perspectives, and in terms of collaboration among all stakeholders that should be involved along the value chain. We will also have a look at how tourism data space can support sustainable tourism development and how tourists and visitors can profit through improved services. So without further ado, let's move to the discussion. Martin, we invite you to present Outdoor Active. The floor is yours, Martin.
Thank you, Alessio, for the introduction and also for the opportunity to participate in the panel today. Well, the vision for developing the Outdoor Active platform as an ecosystem that connects all stakeholders in tourism and helps people enjoy and experience the great outdoors evolved more than 20 years ago, actually. And that was at the time when the Lonely Planet guidebooks were still considered as the Bible for tourists to plan and prepare for their vacation, at least for the free independent travelers. And it was also at the time when Google Maps did not exist yet, when there were no iPhones or Android smartphones around yet. So in the early days of the internet, it was extremely difficult to find reliable, up-to-date information, for example, about hiking tracks or bike routes anywhere in the world. And back then we started thinking about how can we change this, and we really wanted to change this and make it much easier for outdoor tourists to find all the relevant information to plan and undertake outdoor activities and share those experiences with friends. So we started reaching out to tourism destinations, and we wanted to support them with a digital transformation process by actually providing tools they could use to create a digital twin of their destination, tools that enabled them to put all the attractions, all the activities on the map and create the digital data infrastructure with all the information that's required by outdoor tourists. And today, there's more than 3,000 partners, many of those destination management organizations, NGOs, tourism service providers, and outdoor industry players that use the Outdoor Active platform ecosystem to connect with a fast-growing community of more than 12 million outdoor tourists that use the platform and its distribution channels, the apps, the web platform, to plan hiking trips, for example, bike routes, to share those experiences with like minds. And besides the technology, there's obviously an incredible amount of high quality content that is created, curated, and updated and managed by all the partners that use the platform ecosystem already. And today we've heard a lot about 5G and interoperability standards, and we're all equipped with smartphones today, but still finding relevant up-to-date information is still not easy today. And this is not always because the information doesn't exist, but sometimes because it's difficult to find. It's locked away somewhere. It's not available in the necessary level of detail. So I think there's still a fair bit to do.
So very interesting, Martin, thanks. But you talked about the difficulty related to data collection and management. But in your opinion, and based on your experience, what types of data do you have, and which are the main data you think can support the creation of value-added services in your specific segments and perhaps also beyond?
Right. So if we think in terms of data types, the most relevant data types for us and for our business are routes, and that can be either hiking routes, bike routes, running routes, ski touring, climbing. We have more than 20 different activities that we support at the moment. There's point of interest data. So there's more than 500 categories of points of interest covering anything from main tourist attractions to accommodations, restaurants, viewpoints, car parks. Then we have regions, and regions can be tourism destinations, can be countries, can be communes, but also things like protected areas, habitats, mountain ranges, and there's many more. There's offers, obviously, so things that you can book and you can buy. There's very interesting data types like current conditions, so information about how much snow is around, whether a hiking track has been damaged, for example, after heavy rainfall, or whether a hiking track is actually closed. And more recently, there's public transport data that becomes more and more relevant to provide more sustainable mobility and transport. There's, with regard to digital visitor management, sensor data that's very relevant, that tracks where people are, and also sustainability criteria that describe and make it more transparent why certain destinations or businesses are considered considered better to promote sustainable tourism.
Thanks, Martin. A very huge and challenging project, but we will come back on that later on. So, Richard, a very welcome also to you. And you have implemented the Open Data Knowledge Graph project for German tourism. It is another great example of how data can be aggregated into a common national database. Please tell us something about the project and also about the main goals, please.
Thank you, Alessio, and hi to everybody. So with the Open Data Knowledge Graph project for the German tourism, we are working together with the state marketing organizations. We have a federal system in Germany, and so we work together with the partners to integrate all the tourism data in a common content hub, our knowledge graph. This refers to the Google Knowledge Graph because our knowledge graph works quite similar. This means that we want to make all tourism content from the local tourism businesses and the destination management organizations available in a large tourism database as open data. This means that the data is free, the contents is free of individual usage rights. And when we import the data, it will be brought into a uniform structure and semantically labeled here. We use schema.org and tourism extensions of this ontology to label the content. So the content / the data can then be freely used by third parties. For example, providers of special apps or travel providers for their own products via an interface. So with reference to Alberto in the previous presentations, our knowledge graph is between a 3- and 5-star model. And what are the goals of the project? First of all, in the future, guests will use the information sources that provide the best and most comprehensive information, ideally from one single application. They don't want to switch between destination websites and other channels. And second, guests will also interact much more with devices via voice output in the future, like Siri, Alexa, and the Google Assistant. And there may be more devices in future with which you can interact with your voice. This means for destinations that we have to make tourism content available both centrally, or we leave the communication sovereignty to Google, Booking, TripAdvisor, and so on, which cover the entire customer journey. And second, we have to make the content available in semantically prepared form so that conversational interfaces can deal well with content.
Thanks, Richard. Another very interesting project in the context of the data space vision. But just to elaborate a bit more, what works well in your project and which are the biggest challenges? I'm referring both to the data quality, but also to the involvement of key stakeholders, both from the public and private sector.
So in the implementation, we see that the issue of the overarching data quality is in particular a major challenge. The technical implementation works very well. There are now technical providers who can handle such projects well, and we can map the contents to our knowledge graph very easily. However, the integration of the many DMOs and local tourism businesses is very time consuming. In many places, there's still a lack of awareness of the opportunities offered by the digitization and the need to describe the many beautiful local attractions in digital form, to provide them with good images and to make them available to the world. Often it's also, we see at the moment, it's a lack of budget and it's a lack of know-how that makes it difficult for the DMOs to get involved in the project. And that's certainly a point that will also be important for the success for the at the European level.
Thanks, Richard. And Martin, I suppose that you are encountering similar challenge compared to what you just said, Richard, about data collection, as we mentioned before, but also about data quality. Can you say something on this?
Yes, of course. I think it is very, very challenging to keep information up to date and at a high level of quality, especially when we aim for complete coverage. Just think about public toilets as an example. Where's the closest one? Is it a barrier-free toilet? Does it have a changing table for babies? And who's responsible for providing this kind of information? And I'll give you another example, another hands-on example to make it easier to get a practical grip on the theoretical concepts that we are discussing. The last 2 weekends, I was planning hiking trips with the family, and we drove about an hour to get to the hiking trail just to discover that there was a sign set up telling us that the track was closed. And this is not just annoying at that moment when you have to, replan. You've driven for an hour and you can't do what you intended to do because you didn't know about it before, but it also raises questions about who's responsible to provide this kind of information and who's responsible to distribute it to all the relevant channels where people inform themselves and prepare for hiking trips, like in the example I just gave. So in my point of view, DMOs, destination management organizations, they cannot manage all the information themselves that's required by tourists. So we need to share responsibilities for providing data, for keeping data up to date. And this requires a coordinated effort, and it's has to be very clear for each stakeholder how they can contribute, what added values they can provide, and how these added values make a difference. For example, if a national park collects information about the protected areas and how, what areas people can go to and what areas are restricted, then apps like Outdoor Active can use that information provided to outdoor tourists to make sure that the people know where they can go and know where they cannot go, and know how to behave correctly and in responsible and sustainable ways when they visit protected areas, for example. So I think we need to share authority for data provision and management. We need to share responsibility for data quality, and we need to trust each other a lot and connect the people before we connect the interfaces.
Thanks, Martin. You also anticipated my another question that I might have for you. If I understood well, we have also Dolores in this panel.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, hello.
Good afternoon, Dolores. Thanks for joining us. So just to come back a little, you are involved in many projects with a strong focus on data and technology and the data space vision in tourism. What I'd like to ask you is why, in your opinion, is the data space vision so important?
Well, thank you so much, Alessio, for this question and for this panel. I think it's very interesting to have into account that we're speaking about the tourism value chain. And when we are discussing about the tourism value chain, we have to take into account who are the main actors. And in this sense, we're seeing that the DMOs are important pillars. So Martin just mentioned that we have to generate these balances and sharing responsibilities with the private. But at the end, we have to take into account that in the last point in the value chain, there are SMEs. So we are working in different European projects. Recently, we got an European project on Horizon Europe approved on data space on tourism in the Balearic Islands, in which we have involved a hotel chain, in which we are going to work with a hotel association, and we are going to generate a use case in which we are going to start defining which will be these rules to share this data. So it is very important to see which are the data that we need to share, under which conditions, for how long, which are the ethical requirements, which are the conditions for sharing this data, and who is going to be accessed and for how long. So there are a lot of things in which the part of the data sharing it's so important. And when we are discussing about this vision of the European data space, is because we really need to democratize the access to data to all the tourism value chain. If we really want to have a very competitive tourism sector, as we have had until now, but you know that the platforms, that the new trends, the digital tourists, the requirement of better services, the best experiences, and so on, this requires that all the actors in the tourism value chain are connected. So for this, we are trying also to contribute, helping with the developments of, for example, we have a platform in which we are working with DMOs, and we are trying to help them to generate the indicators, and also to try to generate this awareness on how could be the relation that they have to establish with the private sector in order that they can generate, share, and have this data to improve the decision making on the DMO, but at the same time to check which are those data that the DMOs have that can contribute to the competitiveness of the SMEs. And we are not just speaking about open data, but you know that tourism, it's a great generator, a consumer of data, and it's very important to generate from the very first moment which are going to be these key questions, how the data is going to be organized, and who are going to be the actors that are going to be sharing data. Because there is perhaps some misunderstanding, and I think the presentation that we had this morning have been very clear, and I think it's great to share also this knowledge, because sometimes when we are discussing about sharing data, people think immediately in generate a big data lake. So everybody's putting the data in a place, and then we share data from that. And this is not a data space. So we're going to generate these federated structures, and we are going to generate the synergies among the different actors, and they are going to decide which data is going to be shared, for what purposes, for how long, and under which conditions.
Thanks, Dolores. I was thinking that some challenges are also related to the varied nature of the tourism industry and the wide number of stakeholders that should be involved for a sustainable and long-term development of the sector. But in your point of view, what about the role of public administration, also in relation with the wide range of small, medium enterprises that compose the European sector and almost all member states? What do you think about a mixed bottom-up and top-down approach? Because we think that governments at national or regional level should drive the change in terms of a data-driven approach and data space culture, but probably it is required also a kind of cultural change from small and medium enterprise to understand how sustainability and digitalization is actually one of the main points of competitiveness for the sector.
Yeah, I think your question is, it goes to the point, because the difference between tourism and other sectors is the highest number of very small entities that are related to the final service. So for generating the tourism experience, it's not enough to have a single company. So when you go to a destination, you enjoy your travel, when different companies are together, and at the end, your feeling of the tourism experience has been generated by the restaurant, by the hotel, by hiking, by going to the sea, by going wherever. So there are a lot of very small moments in the tourism journey that depends on very specific companies. And at the end, I always see, and I like very much the word as facilitator. For us, the public administration should be the facilitator and should be the one that should ensure that the SMEs have the same access to data that the biggest one. And how? It is very important to generate awareness. So because sometimes the very small companies, they get very important information about the clients, about the tourists, but they don't know how to share it. They don't know the value of this data. And I think Jean-Francois mentioned this morning. So it's not just the thing of selling and buying the data sets, because this is a business model, but not everybody will be in this business model. But it's a way to generate more efficiencies, to generate new business models, and also to generate better tourism experience and to be more competitive. So the value of data is still to be defined. And it will depend in each data space, which is the value of this data that we are going to offer to contribute to a better tourism experience. And I think here, the public administration has a great role, because at the end, the tourism experience is implemented in a destination. So the destination should be aware that all these actors or the value chain are working in an isolated manner in a destination, but the tourist is looking for something that is very complementary and seamless. So I think that this role of the public administration will be to generate this umbrella, to generate this ecosystem in which everybody is aware, in which everybody has the same opportunities to learn about the value of data and have also the capacity to participate in this new data economy.
Thanks, Dolores. Vasilia, I think we have a question from our attendees, so the floor is yours.
Sorry, thank you, people. So there is a question specifically raised towards Martin. If you can respond, please. Are you already including data acquired from space assets such as Earth observation imagery, open or commercial Galileo positions, etc. in your solution?
Thank you for that question. Yes, we do include satellite data, for example, for providing weather forecast services, for providing a map that gives an overview about the snow coverage. So at the moment, when you want to know where in the Alps do we still have snow? You can display a map that that actually shows you the latest snow coverage based on an analysis of satellite imagery that has been collected. And this was implemented together with a partner, and of course we have an aerial satellite imagery layer as a background, which is quite often used for by tourism destinations as well when they digitize information. For example, when they put points of interest on the map, or when they create hiking tracks in areas where there's no hiking track network available. So yes, there's a lot of different use cases where this data is extremely helpful and relevant for us.
Thanks, Martin, and thanks, Emmanuel, for this very important question and interesting. Martin, I'm sure that you, with a lot of data and information you manage in your portal, you have a clear idea of the main driver about the role of public administration in synergies with the small and medium-sized enterprise fabric. So how do you see the relation between these two key actors of the supply chain? And if you have some insights about the role or the main drivers that we should look for better development of your initiative and of the tourism sector in general. Also with reference to the open air and sustainable activity that you are involved in.
Right. So I think what I mentioned before already in terms of the shared responsibility, it's a matter of identifying who can contribute data, who can work together to make sure that data is being kept up to date. And I think is very important to get the people networked initially to share ideas about how businesses or platforms like Outdoor Active want to use data and how we need data to be structured, what levels of detail we require to actually realize and implement certain value-added services, and then figure out who can provide that data or who needs to work together to provide that kind of data. As an example from the area of digital visitor management, now there's a great demand in tourism destinations at the moment to find out where congestion happens, where's overcrowding happening, and when is overcrowding expected to happen again, so you can take countermeasures as early as possible. So in order to understand tourism flows, it's important to know where people are, and that data can be available through trackings of car parks, through trackings of entrance gates, through an analysis of mobile network operating data, and so on. But a lot of those data sources are not accessible for us at the moment. So if you do a Google search for a restaurant to go to, you will get a nice little illustration telling you how busy the restaurant currently is and how busy it's likely going to be tomorrow. Now, if someone accesses information about that restaurant through our channel, we can't provide that kind of information. And it's not because we wouldn't be able to technically implement it. It's because we don't have access to that kind of data at the moment. So I think working together to make sure that this single digital market will provide equal access for everyone to that kind of base information. And if you consider information about visitor flows and about crowdedness at certain places as part of a digital data infrastructure that should be accessible to everyone, then it would be great if we can get organized to make sure that the data from the different parking lots, the different entrance gates, and so on, will become part of a tourism data space that companies like Outdoor Active, but also other organizations that want to analyze this kind of data, maybe with a scientific background or some research questions they want to answer. In our case, it's because we want to provide value-added services for destinations to give them insights about what's likely to happen next week in your destination, so they can suggest alternatives, sustainable alternatives to overrun hotspots, for example. But at the moment, it's really challenging because the access of the data is not really equal at the moment, and many of those data sources do exist, but they are not accessible.
Thanks, Martin. Basilia.
I would like to give the floor, if my team can open the room for Luis Gonzalez that would like to raise a question. I see that he would like to raise a question real time. Can we open the floor for him? All right. Okay. So it might be by mistake. All right. So thank you. Any further questions, please either raise your hand like this or a reaction as you may see it now. You will see a yellow hand. If you position your hand like this or this, it means that you would like to raise a question. Therefore, we will open the floor to raise the question real time. Otherwise, please chat it through. Thank you.
Yes, Basilia, we can say to our attendees to don't be shy and please interact with us. And Dolores, Martin just talked about the main point about data quality, data collection, real-time data, data updates. From your extra national or European experience, how do you see the point of data and statistical collection of information and the comparability among member states? We know that Spain is one of the few EU countries that developed an open data national portal about data Estur, about to collect data about, I don't know, the hospitality, international flows, and so on. How do you see the point about comparability and collection of data among EU member states?
Well, I think in the tourism industry, so you know there are a lot of difference among the countries. So you have to take into account that sometimes the competencies are completely different from one country to another. In one country, the tourism competencies are at national level, then at regional level, and local level. So for example, in Spain, so we have our National Ministry of Tourism, but at the end, the real competencies on tourism in terms of promotion and also regulation are in hands of the regional authorities or even at lowest level. So this makes that sometimes it's quite complicated to compare different things. So you know that the one simple thing, just to put an example, is the stars in the hotels. The stars in the hotels are completely different from one country to another. So the list of requirements that a hotel should have in each country to get 3, 4, 5 stars is completely different. So this is going to make also difficult this part of sharing information. But when we are discussing about data sets, what is important is to generate this semantic, this ontology, and we are already discussing. And I think in the next session, perhaps also Juanjo mentioned it with Fiverr, we are also starting to define some tourism data models. Because at the end, it is very important that everybody in their mind, they have the general concept of what we are sharing or what we are speaking about. So if it's a hotel or it's a camping or it's any other kind of residence in which we are going to have our holidays. So this is the first step. Then you have mentioned statistics, and this is a word that also Misa mentioned this morning. So we have to take into account that when we are discussing about data sharing, it's completely different to the statistics at national level, because this follows a more, let's say, academic procedure. It's quite regulated, the way in which the statistics are being calculated, and also which is the process on how these statistics are being calculated, not only at national level, but then in our Eurostat agency. And you know that not always the statistics that are collected at European level reflect exactly what's happening at regional or local level in each country. So on one hand, we are going to have the statistical information. Then on the other hand, we are going to have these open data portals in which we are going to be able to share information, which is going to be quite general. So the number of arrivals, the nationality of the people that is visiting us, the number of beds that we have in each territory, and these kind of things. But then another different thing is the data that is going to be shared among the tourism operators and also at the level of the DMOs. So, and from them, we have to take into account that the tourists never distinguish what is a border. So for a tourist, it doesn't matter what is the next municipality or which is the next region or which is even the next country, because you can take a train and go to Czech to Austria, only taking a train, and you are crossing borders. So for you, it's completely independent. So what you want is to get the same service. And this is something in which the countries and the operators should start working about. So how the tourism experience can be as seamless as possible. And for that, we will have to generate these data spaces in which this data will be shared.
Thanks, Dolores. And in the same direction, Richard, last year you also launched the Open Data Tourism Alliance to promote standardization of tourism data and content in some German-speaking countries. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a few words about the project and also how does the collaboration work among involved stakeholders?
Of course. In fact, the Open Data Tourism Alliance has been around since 2018. When it was founded by open data enthusiasts from Germany, Austria, South Tyrol, under the name DACH KG. For more professionalization, we initiated the Open Data Tourism Alliance, the ODTA, and each member contributes a small budget. And with the budget, we hired a service provider to advise and support us in the development of the standards. And the members of the Open Data Tourism Alliance are currently the national tourist boards, as well as tourism organizations of at the state level. So at the moment, we have members from Germany, from Austria, from Switzerland, from Sweden, and South Tyrol. And technical, we develop in the ODTA what are called tourism domain specifications. These domain specifications complement schema.org, I mentioned before, where the existing standards are not sufficient. So for the further development of the individual domains, point of interest, accommodation, and so on, working group with members of the ODTA are formed. And in addition, it has become apparent that the overarching exchange in tourism topics, often with a technical focus, plays an important role in the ODTA. So topics here include how to improve DMO motivation, we talked about, and data quality, we also talked about, and how to develop products on the open databases. And of course, the open data is not only a German speaking organization, it's also open for further participants, also non-German speaking countries.
Thanks, Richard. Very interesting. So the data and the data space vision unlock opportunity for a better management of tourism. We are all aware of this, but COVID-19 has also accelerated changes in consumer behavior. And specifically in tourism, we are assisting to an increased attention of the demand about social and environmental sustainability issues. So Martin, in your point of view, how could a tourism data space can support more sustainable tourism, and how can visitors outside of your platform, of course, but especially in your experience, can profit through more effective services developed based on a tourism data space concept?
Mm-hmm. So we've actually just completed a research study on how digital platforms can better support sustainable tourism. We're using Autoactive just as an example for other digital platforms. And what we found is that it's very difficult for consumers to actually find reliable information about sustainable tourism offers. So it's not easy to find out what you're interested in, and there's also a problem of greenwashing. Sometimes that something is labeled as sustainable, but if you dive deeper, then you may find out it's not actually sustainable, at least regarding to your values or your understanding of sustainability. So tourism data space should therefore support shared open data standards and interfaces to provide easy access to data structures that can represent the different aspects of sustainability in a very transparent way. So rather than just displaying an icons labeling something as sustainable, I mean that is helpful, but it's not enough. We need to make it more transparent why a destination or why a tourism service provider is considered sustainable. And this can be achieved, for example, by providing information about what that tourism destination or that service provider is already doing or is planning on doing with regard to the different social, environmental, or economic aspects of sustainability. And even though we also found out there's an attitude behavior gap that's also referenced in literature, of course, that can be observed in practice, which means that tourists that state or say that they want to travel more in a more sustainable ways, not necessarily always act that way or make their decisions in a way that leads to more sustainable behavior. But still, I think if the data space provided easy access to criteria that can be used to better identify, more transparently identify sustainable tourism offers, then we do have a great chance to nudge people and to promote people to invest more or to choose sustainable tourism offers over other offers. And so I think there's a great opportunity here. If we can make sure that the data space, the data infrastructure that's behind, so all the information about the destinations, about the tourism businesses actually also includes a layer of information that makes it clear and transparent why something is or may be considered to contribute to sustainability. And in the project that Richard mentioned, the German Knowledge Graph project, we're in discussions already about how can we make sure that this kind of information will be integrated into the knowledge graph. And it may not be, the first thing that you do, because you have to make sure that all the points of interest are available and all the routes. But it has to be a second or third step, because otherwise we will have all that information, but it will still be difficult to find out about sustainable tourism offers.
Thanks, Martin. We are approaching the end of our session. I will kindly ask you our speaker to leave us a key message about what was discussed today, also in line with the Gaia-X vision and activities. We will have 1 minute, please, for each speaker. Dolores, the floor is yours.
For me, since we are in the session related to the tourism value chain, an important message would be how are we going to democratize the possibility for the SMEs and the micro SMEs to be part of this Gaia-X sharing data economy.
Thanks, Dolores. Richard?
So from my point of view, it's also one of the most important points is to take the local partners with us. They provide a valuable content we need to share as open data. And I think the practical applications are particularly helpful here to convince the local partners.
Thanks, Richard. Martin?
My key message would be that, besides all the technical challenges, the real challenge is a leadership challenge. Leadership is about the organizing the collaboration of the different stakeholders, uniting them around a shared vision, clear strategies. And I think if we manage to achieve that, and if we can get first things going and happening, things that people can get a grip on, that people can use and experience those added values of a data space, then there's a great chance that this is going to be a huge success. And I very much hope that in a few years from now, we'll have created a prosperous tourism data space together, and interconnected with all the different other sectors and so on. And I will use a benchmark, and that will be a public map of all the public toilets in Europe and all the truck closures in Europe. If that's going to be available in a few years from now, and we can all collaborate and work together to make that happen, to provide that kind of information through open data standards, through open data interfaces, that would be absolutely fantastic. And it would be a huge help, not just for the tourists, but also for the local populations that also use the hiking tracks and bike routes that we sometimes think are just there for the tourists.
Thanks, Martin. So data. This is the main message. Thanks for this interesting discussion. Thanks to Gaia-X, and of course to the audience staying with us throughout this session. Please, Vasilia, the floor is yours.
Wonderful session, people. Thank you very much. I will ask my team to go to the next panel session, the third panel session on technological enablers with Jesus Alonso, Patrick Heban, Juan Cojiero. Moderator will be Silvia Castelvi. My God, your names, people. I cannot pronounce any of your names. Good luck. Thank you very much. Silvia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Vasilia, for introducing us. And let's see. Okay, if I see the panelists. Please, can you open your, okay, this session, during this session, we will talk about the technological enablers for developing and implementing data spaces. And for this interesting chat or conversations, we have a group of experts from different stakeholders. We have European IT providers, service providers such as Atos, with the presence of Jesus Alonso, but also we have a technological research center, Tecnalia, in Spain, represented by Ivan Gutierrez, and we have an end user, a key player in Turin sector in data space development in Turin, Amadeus company represented by Patrick Heban, and finally we have an expert in digitalization, in development of technologies for data spaces and Fireware Foundation with Juanjo Hierro. To start this conversation, I would like that you present yourself and also you present your company and and you explain us and the audience how your company or your organization is contributing to the Turin's data space or the data space in general. So I will ask Jesus to start and explain us about it, and then we will follow the rest of the speakers. Jesus, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Silvia, and thank you to Gaia-X for organizing this meeting. I'm Jesus Alonso. I work in Atos in Spain, and I work in the area of consulting and marketing for public sector and defense. And in particular, we are dealing with several projects related to tourism. And that's the reason because we are here presenting these ideas. Atos is a founding member of Gaia-X, and due to that, we are convinced of the utility of these kinds of next generation data infrastructure for all Europe. And we are involved across Atos in several countries, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, and in different areas. But in Spain, we are focusing mainly in tourism, as we are a country for which tourism is a very important part of the GDP, and we are working with several clients and the local entities in promoting the tourism data space, and several examples that we will talk later about that in which we have been dealing with data sharing and different concepts to be applied with local digital twin applied to tourists that I will explain later. And for my introduction, that's all.
Thank you, Jesus. Now from a technological research center, Ivan from Tecnalia, can you present yourself and how you contribute? Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for giving me the opportunity of being part of this panel. It's so important for me. As I am from cybersecurity team in Tecnalia, as part from that team, I'm specialized on technological things like blockchain and other DLTs, self-sovereign identity, also on cryptography with strong focus on novel technologies like privacy preserving computation, like homomorphic encryption, zero-knowledge proofs, and so on. Also quantum and post-quantum technology. So we have a big stack of different things that we research about. And that's because Tecnalia is a research institute based in Spain with expertise in different sectors. We have a special model based on organizational units. And we are making joint efforts between the teams to give a better experience on the technology application. In this part, we work a lot with the team that has the knowledge on applied tourist sector ICTs, and from how we contribute to the data spaces. I would say that we have a lot of a big work from the data space perspective. For instance, we are members of International Data Spaces Association. We are a recognized competence center on that. We are also members of Gaia-X and part of the Gaia-X Spain board of directors, and also we contribute to other associations related to blockchain as Hyperledger, related to cybersecurity as EXO, and so on. And how we are working on this part, giving more focus on the tourism. We have launched several projects with the team that has the knowledge on tourism, so we can mix the technology and the tourism perspective to make a global vision of the privacy and the data control on the data spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. And now, Patrick, please, can you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sylvia. And thanks for the opportunity to participate to this panel. So on my side, I have on the personal side, I have a technical profile. I'm part of the CTO organization, and I've worked for many years on many different mission critical systems that we manage in Amadeus. And a few years back, I've started to invest more of my time on data, in particular streaming real-time data platform internally in Amadeus. And since last year, I've been working on the topic of data spaces, so enabling data spaces within our industry, taking some of the design principles that we have applied internally to intercompany data exchange. More generally, what is Amadeus doing with data spaces? Well, we are one of the founding members of Gaia-X, and we do contribute to various working groups. Jean-François Cassès this morning already explained that Amadeus is also a founding member of Gaia-X that we had the chance to talk about earlier. So a data space regrouping mobility, travel, tourism actors, and you also had a pitch from Karin Fej this morning. And yeah, so my team, which is called Dalacte, is in charge of producing this technology and working in partnership with other companies who adhere to the same principles and value as ours in terms of data exchange, and hopefully we'll talk more about this a bit later. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. And last but not least, Juanjo, please, can you explain us how Fireware is contributing to data spaces? Okay. Can you unmute yourself, Juanjo, please?
Yes, sorry, I was mute. Yes, I hope you can hear me well. Because I'm in a bit difficult place with not that good connectivity, but I hope everything will go okay. So, well, Fireware is foundation is supporting all the activities around Fireware technologies, which are technologies that were in place to with the intent of driving standards that will easy development of smart solutions in different domains. And we follow for that an open source approach, implementation driven approach. And so far we have delivered, I think, key standards in two topics that are essential for development of the smart solutions and definitely will be playing an important role in data spaces. On one side, we have defined a standard API for getting access to digital twin data. Jesus has mentioned before how important it is to bring this concept of digital twins when talking about tourism. And from our perspective, digital twin data is going to be precisely one of the kind of data that we exchange in a tourism data space. Second aspect, and that's also very relevant in to achieve the necessary interoperability is standard data models. We have a specific working group working on data models for tourism, and with some pilots going on. And by the way, interestingly, not just in Europe, in other areas in the world, like Posadas city in Argentina. And well, what we are bringing in the area of data spaces is how to go a step further and bring support to the ability of an open source framework enabling creation of data spaces. We are actively contributing to the technology convergency working group that was created around the Data Space Business Alliance, which was an initiative launched by the BDVA Association, Fireware Foundation, Gaia-X, and IDSA. And there we are trying to work hard how to not only rely on these standards I was mentioning before, but also how to solve aspects connected to data sovereignty, identity management, which is going to play a crucial role in tourism, because we are talking about visitors, citizens, individuals that need to get access to data services and do it and making sure we provide a trust environment and all the exchange secure and supporting privacy. And also last but not least, also delivering marketplace services that are going to be also essential to be able to, for the different participants to publish data services and others to be able to discover what data services they can use from other participants.
Thank you, Juanjo. Very good points. You almost covered all the key topics from technology point of view, the interoperability, the trust, security, and also the value-added services. But I want to know from you, from a personal or company point of view, which are the most critical technological challenges that we should face next month, next years? From your point of view, which are these challenges? Can you briefly share with us? How do you see that these are the critical challenges for creating sovereign and federated tourist and data spaces? So please open your microphones, answer, because we want to make it an open dialogue. And also, please, the attendees, you can participate with the chat, writing your questions or raising your hand, and we open the microphone. First,
well, there was this, if you allow me to start first, there was, and I think it's something very valuable to bear in mind as a reference, is this white paper that was produced by OpenData on design principles for data spaces. And there was, I think, a good work in terms of identification about what are the core building blocks when trying to build data spaces. So and I think all of them are essential. I think we are not going to be able to really boost the adoption of data spaces if we do not cover each of these pillars. We talk about building blocks that have to do with data interoperability. That requires APIs for the data exchange, data models. We have a pillar that has to do with trust, identity and access management, and the third pillar, which has to do from a technical point of view with data value creation. And we need to cover these three. Then there is another one that is non-technical, which has to do with about governance. I think that might be also important in tourism. But I think we need to cover all these things. I don't want to monopolize to go to the detail of these three pillars, but at least wanted to bring on the table, yes, this overall landscape and this reference to this white paper that I think is a good sign of consensus among the community and something that may help driving the path forward, moving forward.
I think interoperability is a key point, because in many cases, if you're thinking about tourism, there is a different level of companies that are working with tourism. If you think first of the big OTAs, the big companies that are selling flights, that are selling hotels, is a kind of companies with a normally very good level of digitalization. But if you are talking to a destination, in many cases, you are thinking about a small village with a beach or a mountain or whatever, and they don't have that level of digitalization, and they are the owner of the local data. So in many cases, the level is different between the big ones, the big OTAs or the big companies, and the small ones, the more municipalities in many cases, that they have their own data of the tourism, and they know what they want when they are there. So if we're going to define tourist space, we need to be able to match both needs, and also to be able to help, mainly from the public sector, to be able to help the local and small companies dedicated to tourism to be able to have a level of digitalization that can help to introduce and to manage more data in the space.
Good points, Juanjo.
Also, maybe if I may add, Sylvia, I just want to insist on one point that Dolores mentioned a few times in terms of technological challenges, and especially for tourism data space. I think it's very important to consider the fact that it's a very broken down ecosystem with lots of small players, and not only players that have big means in terms of IT. So a majority of players we need to connect to build this ecosystem do not have means to embark in big IT transformation. They do not have means to like change technology to be able to share data. So this is one key challenge to me that we need to address. We need to be able to share data in a non-intrusive manner and respect the topology and the IT landscape that exists out there. And I think this is a real key point that we need to jointly work on if we want data space and data sharing at scale to be successful. So yeah.
There is one. No, sorry, there is one thing that I wanted to mention is that sometimes it's not a technical challenge. The challenge is to reach the agreement on what technology, what standards to adopt. And, this sometimes is more challenging than let's say, the technical aspects out of it, how we reach consensus. That's why I thought I mentioned, I believe it's so important, this Data Space Business Alliance, because we expect to reach that consensus there, what to adopt.
I was going to say that all of you, from my point of view, have the truth. So I think that there are good points, because everything for me here is a mix of technologies. It's not only one technological challenge, but there are a lot of technological challenges that mix each other. From the trust point of view, for instance, the control over the data is also critical, because in the end of the day, we are talking about data all the time. Data space is about data. So if we don't have the control over the data, we have a problem. Also, the privacy of that data, because, for instance, the GDPR is a great example on this, because it has a lot of technological challenges itself to apply that kind of regulations, and how we can manage the information going from one way to another, and also being shared between the businesses and the SMEs, because all that information comes from the businesses and are part of the business. They go to another way to make another business. So this kind of security is critical, because we are talking about the main points of the businesses when we talk about the data.
Great point, Ivan. Thank you for introducing. And based on your last comments, talking about SMEs and the willingness of the companies, and also, of course, the SMEs to share data, how do you see that the technology can support or can promote, stimulate companies and also SMEs and on focus SMEs to be able to share the data? Because here we are not talking about open data. So we sometimes, as you just commented, Ivan, we are talking about data that supporting their business. So they are not allowed to share this data. So how do you see here that the technology can facilitate this?
Yeah, I think, Sylvia, the willingness to share data will always be there as a question for deciders. And it will always be based on competition, company strategy, and some key questions that are not purely technology. I think where technology can help is to bring higher trust in data exchange framework, is to ensure that as we define it in Gaia key principles, ensure that data owner remains in control at all times of their data, and also ensure that the data exchange framework allows to define access and usage policies that can align with company strategy. So hopefully making it seamless to exchange data and create value will at some stage outweigh the reluctance that we can still see today to share data.
I can mention a project that we developed with a client that we are working in tourism, with a public agency in charge of promoting tourism in Canary Island. And they developed a project, what they call data sharing, with a small number of companies. I think there were 2-3 hotel branches, and I don't know if I've been a local and regional air company. And the idea was that this company has a public budget, and they spend a lot of money promoting tourism, but they are in the upper part of the funnel. They don't know the conversion, because the conversion is made through the big OTAs or the local hotels. So, and the local hotels has that now, but they don't know the impact of the other campaigns. And then develop a project in which they set a set of data available for all these companies that participate in the pilot regarding the information of the marketing campaigns they do. And the hotels provide the information about the conversion. And one of the requirements were that the different hotels were not, they didn't want to share their data with other hotels, but they were able to share data with that company if they assure them that their data, private data, and data that came from their strategy in that hotel were not going to be shared with other competitors. So in that way, they develop a system based on several technologies that they have. They integrate the technology, they validate the security, and once the technology were fixed, they had to sign a contract to be able to, a public contract with that company to be able to manage the situation and that everything were right. That pilot was developed during the last month of last year and the first month of this year, and they are now analyzing the results because for that public companies a very good way of being able to demonstrate to the sector where they spend their money.
Good example, Jesus. I see for your answers that providing this data security, the control over data, is a key aspect of the technology and facilitating data sharing, in addition to the added value, the services that you develop on the top of the data. So next question from my side is how we can make Gaia-X a trust from your point of view, your company, how Gaia-X can create a trust and secure environment. Any ideas, Patrick, maybe with the Eclipse data space connector that you are working could be one technology?
Yeah, to me, I mean, Gaia-X is there and is doing work to formalize the trust principles, to formalize interoperability principles that will be required to exchange data at scale. And I think this is key to connect various environments. After indeed, on our side, we've made some technical choices so far, and we leverage the work we do on a very promising project, which is Eclipse Data Space Connector. And it's one of the technology out there. It's not the only one. And but I do believe that it's one that is already very advanced and can cover a lot of the needs for a data space. And I'll be happy if anybody is interested to be contacted offline and to take anyone further on this topic. But it's a technology that implements those principles that are defined in the different working groups by Gaia-X, and that adheres to those principles in order to implement secure, distributed, and data exchange where data owner remains in control of how they want to share data, whom they want to share the data, what policies do they want to define for the data consumption, and of course implements all the traceability and the smart contracting that is required to make those exchanges secure. Yeah.
From my perspective, we have been talking, and I think the example of Jesus, that Jesus was bringing on the table was a perfect example. How important it is that the different participants are able to manage access to the data they offer, so that only those they wish to share data with really can access the data. So one of the things that Gaia-X needs to cover is the identity, the decentralized identity and access management framework. And actually, this is a work that has just started within Gaia-X. We are from Fiverr precisely having conversations with the members of the working group, with Pierre as the CD of Gaia-X and so on. This is something that is going to be fundamental. Trust framework, of course, is there and can be used, but this decentralized identity and access management framework is going to be key. But don't forget, it also has to be accompanied with the APIs, the data models that will also foster the data exchange among participants. So these elements together are probably the ones that should focus, let's say, the short-term developments.
Thank you, Juanjo. Now we are going to open the microphones. So we ask the audience, if you have questions, please raise your hand and you can enter. We have one question from Laura.
Hello.
Yeah, Laura.
Can you hear me?
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks. In my name, it says For Workies because that's my company, but I am representing the Vice President of the Smart Cities Commission from Ametic. So I would like to clarify that. First thing, the whole workshop is being great. It clarifies a lot. And a lot of what has been exposed is about infrastructure and architecture needs and so on. But in terms of the private companies who deliver either IT services or data-related services or use case-driven data services, as is the case of some of our associates, it is not always so clear how the business case would benefit them. Therefore, it is a little bit difficult to understand the opportunities. And sometimes maybe I believe that raising or surfacing the statement about how contracts management or even transactions management technical capabilities would be also delivered into the data space so that these interactions among different companies, not only public companies, in different levels of details of the data could be easier for the companies. I'm not sure. I mean, part of what I'm asking or commenting has been included in your previous comments, but I think maybe surfacing it a bit more might make it easier for small, medium companies who are currently creating our own platforms, and we need to say, well, what do we do? What's in there for us? That might make it easier. Not sure if my question is clear, but I'm happy to clarify if that's possible. Thank you for the answer and great job.
Thank you, Laura. Someone from you.
I'm happy to have a go, but yeah, I may have to iterate a bit more. But as I understand, to me, the data spaces are about connecting players to exchange data. As it was said this morning, data spaces are there. It's a club of companies who are willing to exchange data, whether you're an SME or a big company or maybe someday some individual player. And I think the incentive for SMEs is to find value. So obviously some companies will want to monetize data, some other will be happy to share some of the data without monetization necessarily involved. But the key is, in the end, is that through data exchange, we manage to generate value, whether it's in the domain of travel, whether it's getting better visibility on other part of the travel so that you can better manage disruptions that happen in travel and therefore reduce the cost of managing disruption. That's one aspect to generate value. But there's many other, of course, and I think that's where SME and so on need to look at to decide what they are willing to exchange or consume in those data spaces.
I think that Laura is right on points because I mean that better data availability means the way of development and establishment of new businesses, but we have also to keep in mind that there are already working businesses in there. I think that most of the day for us that work day by day in the technical part of Gaia-X tend to forget that there's the real actor that is behind everything, and that Gaia-X is only a way of orchestrating everything and having everything clear and everything secure. And yeah, I mean that we have to work in that way, providing a better way of sharing data, because the current ways of sharing data are not a solution and are not solving anything or partially solving everything, because we tend to do private things, and also developing private platforms, or providing platforms as a service that some companies can provide to the external companies. But Gaia-X is more than that. It's something that everything is shared between the different partners, and that's a great thing for me. That's the key point of Gaia-X here.
Very good point, Ivan. And I think that Laura raised a very good question, because sometimes when we are in DSBA, the technical committee, defining the technologies, the architecture, we are putting the emphasis on developing technologies as facilitators, and we forgot the motivation that are the use case, the services on the top. And for that, we need tools that support these companies to develop data-driven use cases. That this is the initial point that then will be developed with the technologies. But first, we need these use cases between different companies. And Jesus also has given a good example of these needs and value added. So we are finalizing the time. So I think the dialogue, the questions has been very interesting, and we have just time for 3 minutes each of you to make a final statement, to explain, for example, which projects are you working, futures that you have, which are the future projects, developments, a final statement from your side. Please, Jesus, if you can start.
Yes, I shall start. From my point of view, it's very important what you mentioned at the end. You need to find a business case. You need to be able to define what data you're able to share and what you are going to get. And the answer is different for a big one, like Amadeus, which is this table, than a SME and a small or medium enterprise in a small village who develops tourist services. And from a future point of view, we are working with our clients in an idea that is a digital twin of a tourist destination, because digital twins are usually linked to industry fairs, they're to local as cities, local digital twins. But for a tourist destination, we think it's a very important tool, because you may think that, and these are data from a real village in Spain, they have around 70,000 people registered in the council. In average, they live there around dual, 140,000. But in summer, they are 400,000 people in the place. No? And you need to be able to manage simply things like water and power supply, bandwidth, mobile, but also security. And a digital twin can help you, can help that municipality or that region to be able to simulate what is going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesus. I like a lot, because I know the digital twins apply it in manufacturing. So great to see a digital twin in tourism. And from a technological research center, you have talked about a lot, Ivan, about your activities, but final statement probably on privacy, that is your expertise.
Yes, of course. One key point that has already been told is that we have to find a way of involve businesses and incentivize them. Treating the data as a private thing that must be shared, the privacy preserving computing, I think that is a key point or a key technology of having the data managed in a secure way and a way that is trusted by every participant in the network. We have different approaches in the future, having multi-party commutation, having homomorphic encryption for service exploitation. There are a lot of ways of having the data secure. So I think that's the future for us.
Thank you, Ivan and Patrick.
Yeah, thank you, Silvia. I think Jesus and Ivan made really good points. On the technology side, I do think we are at the cornerstone of data exchange. And I really think that if we do it right, the way we achieve distributed data exchange could be a real game changer, especially with the increase of volume of data and that we produce with IoT and edge devices. And for our industry, for travel and tourism, I think it has the potential to really transform this industry and have real concrete effect on anybody traveling and going for holiday. And of course, as per previous panel, I'm also looking forward to having a full map of public toilet in Europe. It's another very exciting outcome. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. And Juanjo, please.
Yeah, perhaps last key message is if we want interoperable data spaces and boost the kind of innovation we are looking for, we need to make choices about what is going to be these standards for data interoperability. I agree with Jesus Alonso that I believe digital twins is a way to approach this. And we have a standards for the API, how to get access to the digital twin data and also how to model data models. Secondly, standards like the ones being working on within the context of Gaia-X, different new working groups on decentralized identity and access management. And we also have to cover all those aspects dealing with how to describe services and so on. Hopefully, we will be able to reach consensus on what are those choices. That is a bit more the challenge because there might be different alternatives. So we have to kind of agree on which ones to adopt. And that would be the key message I want to deliver. We have to make it happen with that consensus and joining forces all together to bring a concrete framework that then developers of services and applications can rely on.
Thank you very much. All of your contributions has very relevant from my point of view. I don't see more questions, comments from the audience. So before closing, just as conclusions, I want to emphasize that all of you have agreed that interoperability, security, and added value services are key points for technology enables to facilitate the development of data spaces, but also it is important how to involve the SMEs into these data spaces, how the technologies can support, but also how we can support them to develop value-added services to take advantage of these data spaces and the value of the data. You have also comment for me is very appropriate that we need to make visible the good experience, the reference, the best practice that you have implementing data sharing in the sector. Of course, and in more focus regarding SMEs. And my last comment and contribution to this discussion, and Juanjo, you already appointed to that, is the collaboration. So Gaia-X is about collaboration. We have different working groups where we are collaborating all together. So we have also collaboration working groups out of Gaia-X in DSBA, Data Space Business Alliance. So I think that beyond the technologies and implementation of technologies, the collaboration between stakeholders and the participants on developing data spaces is key. So just to encourage all of you to collaborate, contribute, and share. This is my last comment and recommendation. And Basilia, I give you the...
Thank you. Thank you. I think this is the point of the day that we start congratulating ourselves and applauding to all that we've done. This was a wonderful session. I would like to thank all of our speakers, all of our attendees, all the people that made the time to come to Brussels and join us for a festive breakfast and a more festive lunch, I think. So thank you very much for having the chance to discuss and take your point of view. I think it's extremely important to raise as many voices as possible. I think an ecosystem, and more so a Gaia-X ecosystem, either this is from the tourism data space part, the mobility, the healthcare, the manufacturing, and so on and so forth, is dependent on its experts, and it's dependent on the people that comprise it. So the greater the voices and the more we open up, which is also an encouragement for next attendees to come and join us for the next events, the better it will be in the end. So just an announcement as a final mention. I would also like to thank Dolores Ordines from Any Solution that equally support this, and Alberto Gago, Alberto Palomo, but all the different stakeholders, the keynote addresses, and all the speakers that joined us. I think, as I mentioned, the content was really impressive. We are really back to school, but we can now create all the necessary pressure for this tourism data ecosystem. As a next session, just letting you know that Gaia-X is having a hackathon between the 20th and the 21st of June. The next data space event is taking place on the 7th of September. It's going to be focused on agri, the agri data space, and on the 17th of October we will have one on manufacturing, and by the 17th of November we will have the summit, the flagship of Gaia-X, where it's the right time to discuss about deliverables, what has happened throughout the year, what has happened with the hubs, currently at 17 hubs, 15 European hubs and 2 international hubs as well, what is happening with the 19 working groups, and like push as much as we can. Thank you very much for your time again. See you once more very soon. Bye.